the base a little over a month ago. There is still no heat or hot running water. The living conditions are not what U.S. service members are used to. The commander of the base expects it to take about 3 to 4 months to rebuild.
Of course, a soldier's job is to defend his nation and to fight, but the military does require that every soldier do what is necessary, and of course this is necessary work, for their comfort and for the military in general.
The soldiers build and repair at the same time they train. But how do they feel?
The government cannot provide for you. You have to do it yourself.
The soldiers of the Iron Wolf Brigade train to defend their country while trying to fix where they live. From Kaunas, Lithuania, Army Sergeant Tim Donahue, AFN News.
Last week, we reported on the NATO defense ministers meeting in Travemünde, Germany. It was the first such meeting of the ministers, and Gary Bartel reports it was held in an unusual setting.
All the participants of the NATO Defense Ministers Conference agreed the meeting in Travemünde's Kur Hotel was a success. The conference site, a small Baltic coastal resort east of Hamburg, was perhaps instrumental in providing the right kind of atmosphere for the easygoing format. The Germans said they picked Travemünde because it once was on the border with a communist bloc right next to the German Democratic Republic. But they also confided that during the off-season, the resort area could use the extra business. About 350 journalists, cameramen, and technicians set up shop in Travemünde's largest hotel. The 12,000 inhabitants of Travemünde also had to put up with restrictions on their freedom of movement because of increased security in place to protect the 15 defense ministers and assorted generals and diplomats. But the picturesque Baltic Sea town seemed to be the perfect place for NATO to get its ducks in a row. Getting the ministers to line up in a row for the traditional group photo proved more difficult. Secretary Aspen was the last to join the formation, so NATO Secretary General Werner jokingly told him he had to stand in the back. Then there are the last-minute adjustments to make.
Come on. Malcolm, come on the carpet. Yeah, Malcolm's on the carpet. Okay. Thank you very much.
And when you think the photographers are finished... At the NATO Defense Ministers Conference in Travemünde, Gary Bartel, AFN News.
And that's the morning news for a Tuesday. Your dollar rates and weather forecast are next. Army's Iron Wolf Brigade, Sergeant Tim Donahue gives us an overview of the force and talks to those who are building the Iron Wolf today to provide security for Lithuania in the future.
The primary mission of the 9 battalions that make up the Iron Wolf Brigade is to defend the country. Conscription or mandatory service is for 1 year, and after that it's all volunteer. What does it take to make someone want to stay?
One is to please his father, or at least his father has some influence in it. Another one is that already in his earlier school years, when he was a cadet in a special school, or at least had a special program in the military, that it helped prepare him for this. And the third reason is that he finds it a very manly profession, and he feels very good about himself in it.
With the current force in existence for only 3 years, what would it be like to be able to rebuild the army of your homeland?
No. Well, he never really quite dreamed or imagined that it would be like this, but deep down inside he hoped that there would be an opportunity to eventually be an officer in his own army in his own country, and he's quite happy about that.
There's history being made every day in a building country and army, but do the members of the Iron Wolf Brigade feel they're making history?
About this, he doesn't really think too much, about being part of history, but at the same time, He's aware that it's an important job, and he's willing and determined to share everything that he has, his skills, his knowledge, to help, reorganize the Lithuanian military, help his country, and move forward, to do a good job.
The Iron Wolf Brigade trains for the future while remembering the past. Army Sergeant Tim Donahue, AFN News.
As the fighting continues in Bosnia, the Air Force continues to fly many of the wounded to the United States for treatment. One flight from Sarajevo to Germany involves 6 children. Sergeant Clay Cogsdill was on hand as a C-130 and crew from the Georgia Air National Guard brought the children to Germany.
The majority of the 6 children are amputees. They spent one night in Germany before heading to the United States for further treatment. For members of the 2nd AES, it was their 4th flight into war-torn Sarajevo.
It's exciting for us because it's a strategic mission which we don't normally fly. The mission itself, going in and picking up wounded and injured, is our everyday mission. But it adds a little adrenaline push. It's a little more exciting to see that. And when you see the little children, obviously it affects kind of pulls on your heartstrings a little bit more.
During Desert Storm, I was in my flight school, so I missed out on that. And yeah, I never realized that something like this would come up, and this was great. It still is great. I'm going to be here for quite a while. And like I said, it's a great opportunity, and I love doing it.
5-year-old Nazil Sisic was wounded in both legs and his right eye on July 5th. Traveling with his mother, Ismeta, both mother and son are looking forward to their time in the States.
I'm looking forward not to hearing the grenades and shelling anymore.
The children spent the night at Landstuhl Army Regional Medical Center before heading to the United States. Sergeant Clay Cogsdill, Air Force News, Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
And that's the morning news for this Thursday. Your dollar rates and weather forecast are next. Von Blair shows us how they're turning their economy and society in a westward direction.
The Latvians are making up for lost time. For 51 years, Latvia was one of the crown jewels in the Soviet Empire. That all changed in 1991 as the Latvians threw off the suffocating cloak of Marxism and boldly reclaimed the independence stolen from them in 1940. Beneath the serene facade of the Riga cityscape lies the bustling heart of a country reinventing itself. For Latvians like newspaper editor Paul Rautseps, these are heady times.
The fascinating thing is this society is being made right now, and you're part of it. While America is already, it's all set. You know, everything's all set, and you can do better or worse in that society as it exists, but you can't really change it very much. And here, everything is changing every day.
The changes are most evident in the streets, where once barren shops are now full of consumers snapping up Western-made goods. Latvia's future looks bright, in large part because it's located on a traditional east-west trade route. The country is bordered to the north and south by its Baltic sister states, Estonia and Lithuania. The capital, Riga, is a major Baltic seaport. To the east lie Belarus and Russia. The long shadow cast by the Russian bear is a concern for Rautseps and other Latvians.
That everybody is always looking over their shoulder at Russia, what's happening in Russia. I mean, the events of 2 weeks ago were a very clear reminder of the fact that we live next to a very large and sometimes unstable neighbor, and so we have to keep that in mind.
Good relations with Russia are further threatened by the presence of 17,000 Russian troops in Latvia, more than 2 years after the government ordered their withdrawal. When discussing the status of those forces, U.S. Ambassador to Latvia, Inst Silens, prefers to stress the positive.
What we can say is that there's been significant progress in getting them out. We started with, roughly speaking, 50,000, and we're now down well below 20,000. That in itself, I think, shows that Moscow realizes that the rest have to be out.
While acknowledging that the presence of Russian troops is a sore point, most Latvians we spoke to were more concerned with the country's future. As one Latvian journalist told us, when you're making up for lost time, you can't afford to be consumed with the past. From Riga, Latvia, Lon Blair, AFN News.
Knowing how to adapt to a constantly changing world can be a bit confusing, especially in the defense arena. The head man in the U.S. Defense Department explains.
The late 1940s was a great period of uncertainty. And it's kind of interesting to go back and read the articles in the scholarly magazines of that period to see what they thought about what the world looked like. And you know, they got it wrong in lots of ways. They did not understand it. and it became clear that this world was different than they thought it was going to be. But it took about 4 or 5 years to sort out. I wouldn't be surprised if we're not going through a similar thing at the end of the Cold War that we went through at the end of World War II, where we're trying to understand what kind of a world this is and what the policy ought to be in this kind of a world.
Secretary of Defense Les Aspin. The Italian Air Base at Hoya del Colla has been a busy place lately. 2 squadrons of British Royal Air Force jets are deployed there in support of NATO's peacekeeping operations in the former Yugoslavia. Sergeant John Tway reports on an F-3 Tornado squadron.
The Tornadoes have been at Hoya del Colla since April. In that time, they've been flying on a 24-hour operational basis, with roughly 70% of their missions taking place at night. They're part of a NATO coalition force engaged in Operation Deny Flight over Bosnia. Group Captain Phil Dacre explains the Tornado's primary job.
Mainly it's combat air patrols as part of the enforcement of the no-fly zone over Bosnia-Herzegovina, but they also are equipped with night vision goggles and cameras, so they do a bit of reconnaissance as an aside, but not as their primary mission.
The 25th Tornado Squadron originates from its home base at RAF Leeming in Yorkshire, England. Prior to their deployment, the squadron trained for about 3 months for just such an operation. Crew members say this mission has proven both exciting and valuable.
We are actually getting some very fruitful and meaningful sorties with good outcome. We are predominantly doing our flying by night, and we're having tremendous success in policing the no-fly zone and detecting helicopters flying low altitude at night.
Wing Commander Middleton says this is his first operational deployment in his 26-year Royal Air Force career. He says he feels it's a privilege to be part of the NATO no-fly mission. From Hoya del Colla, Italy, Air Force Sergeant John Tway, AFN News.
When the Cold War ended, the EUCOM mission changed. General John Shalikashvili explains how the focus of EUCOM has revised to meet the needs of a restructured world.
We all ought to be much more concerned about daring to do something different than fearing doing something wrong. And finally, I would tell you the one thing that you have that you must under no circumstances give away, and that's your integrity, your honesty, your character. That's non-negotiable. And as a leader, that's really what paints you one way or the other. So guard that with all your might. But have fun what you're doing, and I think you'll go as far as you wish to go.
For some, leadership comes by instinct. For others, it's something learned by trial and error. And General Shalikashvili has some sound advice to those who are aspiring to become the very best.
People are now consumed with the issue of bringing stability to our newfound friends in the East, to expanding our military-to-military cooperation with them. Go to Warsaw or Prague or wherever, and there are Americans stationed there dealing day to day with the militaries of Poland or the Czech Republic or Hungary, wherever. It is really an extraordinary reorientation of the force.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General John Shalikashvili. The Family Support Center at Incirlik Air Base, Turkey, gives parents the opportunity to improve their parenting skills and deal with the unique challenges of raising children. Airman Richard Lewis has more on systematic training for effective parenting.
No doubt about it, raising children is a tough job. From the day they're born until the day they graduate college, it's never easy. And like you've probably heard before, they don't come with an instruction manual. There is a place, however, you can get instruction on the trials of raising children, and it's at the Family Support Center. STEP, or Systematic Training for Effective Parenting classes, are held in Room 2 of Building 3600. The classes teach parents how to effectively discipline their children, to aid in communication, and help children behave better.
We start with developmental processes of the children, what they go through, how they learn, why they behave in such a way, the power plays, some of the things that they use to get what they want.
The classes deal with nearly every age group, from 2-year-olds to teenagers. However, they concentrate primarily on 2 through 12-year-olds. The STEP classes cater to the individual needs of the parents who come to the class that day. They begin the classes by asking them what their particular problems are with their children, and that's what they focus on during the class. This enables them to zero in on exactly what the parents need. The STEP classes offer modern techniques to conquer the age-old challenges of parenting.
What we do is we use videos, role-playing, discussion groups to encourage parents to become actively involved in the whole program.
Reporting from Incirlik Air Base, Turkey, I'm Senior Airman Richard Lewis, Air Force.
Every year, members of the Hometown News program head out to record Christmas greetings for the folks back home, and this year is no exception. Sergeant Julie Bryden has a report on the team from San Vito, Italy.
Military members stationed overseas are given a chance every year to send a holiday greeting to loved ones stateside. Hometown news crews are sent out of Kelly Air Force Base, Texas, to cover the world and collect greetings from military members and their families. These greetings are then distributed to the designated media stations in the States to air throughout the holiday season. Gathering these messages isn't an easy TDY.
Yeah, the hours are long. It's a long TDY. But you're making people happy. I mean, we're out here, we move every day, we have 1,000 pounds of equipment. Sometimes it's a bit of drudgery hauling it all around, but while you're doing it, you get to see people. We had a couple of people sing, knowing it was going back home. We had a few tears, folks saying hi to their moms and dads, their wives, their husbands, get a little choked up. You know, it's kind of an emotional thing for a lot of people, and it's a feel-good situation.
With an enormous supply of media resources, hometown news staffers give everyone's greeting an excellent opportunity to air in their hometown.
Our database back at San Antonio, Texas, Kelly Air Force Base, has about 10,000 media outlets, radio stations, TV stations, and hometown newspapers that air our products. And they're more than willing to air news items about soldiers and airmen stationed around the world doing their bit.
During their visit to San Vito Air Station, the Mediterranean team collected over 100 holiday greetings. In addition, 5 Good Morning America greetings were taped.
Good morning, America!
Reporting for AFN San Vito, I'm Air Force Sergeant Julie Bryden.
Now it's time to take a look at our weather forecast, courtesy of Detachment 8, 7th Weather Squadron.
Every animated movie ever made line the walls and floors, and there's something for everyone.
Caps, Disney Store caps, Disney Store ties, which are really great for adults. There's also a great selection of artwork for people who are really interested in art here in Germany. Videos, books, T-shirts, basically everything under the sun Disney that's really fun and imaginative.
There's also a place in the store where you can arrange to visit one of the Disney theme parks.
The Disney Travel Center at this point sells tickets to Euro Disney, to Walt Disney World and Disneyland, so all the Disney theme parks, and except for Tokyo, upstairs. And beginning in January, you'll be able to book hotels through the Travel Center as you go and make your travels across to different Disney theme parks. It's great because you can get your tickets in your hand before you actually take off on your trip. So that's available here at the Disney Travel Center. Any other information about Disney we have at the store, because there's lots of, people want to know more and more what's going on with the company.
So why is there a store like this in the middle of downtown Frankfurt, Germany?
Well, back in 1987, our first Disney store was built in Glendale, and we kept getting letters before that time from guests, from people who visited Disney, wishing they could have a part of Disneyland with them every day. And so the concept of the Disney store generated from that. We opened our first Disney store and basically try to give the feeling of Disneyland to our guests as they come in every day. Because they can't go to the park every day, of course.
If you've been wondering what to get for the people on your holiday gift list, the Disney store may just be the answer.
Merchandise is geared to people of all ages, kids of all ages. We say from 0 to 130. That's sort of our age range.
Army Sergeant Mikey Perkins, AFN News.
And that is the news. Have a good evening.